Welcome to the Perfect Life Awakening Show, hosted by Royce Morales. Royce has been a transformational facilitator, teaching groundbreaking, spiritually based courses for more than 4 decades. She is the author of 3 books about her teachings. Join Royce as she takes you on a journey into how to live your best life and find your true purpose through discovering the origins of subconscious, disempowering notions and releasing them. She talks with experts and inspiring people just like you who learned to trust their intuitive inner wisdom, which led to life-changing shifts. Today, her guests live an empowered existence and are helping change the world to a higher consciousness place based on truth and love. You deserve to awaken to, align with, and embody your true self and live a life filled with love. Transform yourself from triggered to empowered and create your perfect life. Here is your host, Royce Morales.
Hello, welcome to my show, Perfect Life Awakening. I'm so excited to be here with you all and getting to talk with somebody who I hope you find as amazing as I did when I met her, Nancy Myers. I was invited to a presentation. I live up in the mountains, and there's a group called the Goddess Group, and they always have these fascinating speakers. And I went to one of their meetings, and there she was. And I sat there, and I guess, I have a good amount of skepticism still, even after teaching spirituality for 4 decades. I still have that little part of me that goes, oh yeah, prove it. And boy, did she ever prove it to me by demonstrating what she does and taking pictures of the people in the group and having these orbs show up, these spiritual lights show up. And I couldn't deny with my own eyes that had just happened. So I had to invite her to my show, and little did I know she already has a show on Time. But it's really wonderful to have her here. But let me tell you a little bit about her. Unexpectedly, her son passed in 2010, and she was awakened, and she'll tell the whole story about it. She was awakened to a unique and special spiritual gift. Without warning, her photographs captured these mysterious images of orbs. There they were. And intuitively, she knew that these light images were messages from spirits. I don't know how she knew that, but she knew, and she'll tell us why. And a lot of times they showed clearly defined faces of loved ones and even pets. And then she started receiving instructions from spirits as to what to do with these images. And this new ability kind of evolved into communication and receiving messages from the orbs by expanding her knowledge of and becoming a channeler and understanding all of these, the spiritual world, mediumship skills, Reiki Master, an oracle card reader, and of course the host of her podcast, The Spheres of Spirit. She then authored 2 books. One is called Entering the Light Fantastic and Encircled by the Light Fantastic, which really chronicles her spiritual evolution. And now she's known as the Lady of the Light. She gets requests all over the world from people to take pictures and understand what's going on. And before I even go further, I want you to see an example of what we're talking about so you can have kind of an image of the amazingness of all this. So let's pull up one of her photographs and she will explain what it is and what happened from it, etc. So let's see that one. Yeah, tell us about that one, Nancy.
Okay, Royce, and good morning. It's so good to be with you. Thank you for having me on your show.
My pleasure.
This is, and the Lady of the Light was my husband. He dubbed me that because before that, people would go, "Oh yeah, you're the orb lady," and to me, it sounded like the bag lady. I go, I don't like that. So he changed it. So I'm grateful that he changed it. So this was down in the Huntington Beach area, and long ago, it was inhabited by Native Americans. And there's some very sacred sites that they have set aside for the Native Americans. You can't build on it. You can visit and walk. And I don't I mentioned earlier that I thought it was a burial site. I'm not sure if it was or it wasn't, but it's still a very sacred site. I think it was. But anyway, so we were down there at night, and I thought, of all the places where there might be very special spirits, this might be it. And so I had my friend, actually, it was my husband, who's also a really good orb photographer now. I said, I'm going to call in the spirits, say a prayer of gratitude, and send out an invitation of love, and see if they'll be, if they'll show up in the pictures. And sure enough, this was the first picture that he took, and there it was. And so, you can sense when you're at a certain site, the energy, the holiness of it. It's kind of like walking in a church. Sometimes you just feel it. And so anyway, that's a very, very typical orb. It has definition. Sometimes they have concentric circles, and they respond.
So, okay. When I first saw these, I thought, well, maybe it's a flaw in the camera lens. Maybe it's do people say that all the time?
Yeah, and there are many, many naysayers, oh no, it's just dust, it's just this, it's just that. And to be honest, sometimes it can be. I have a whole section on my website where I go into when an orb is not a spiritual orb. It's caused by technology. I call them false orbs. But when you hold out your hand and you ask the orb to be on your hand, or the orb shows up with the face, and my sitters can recognize their dad or their dog or their grandma, then dust doesn't do that. That's spirit driven. Now remember, spirit has to work in our 3D world.
Yes.
So yes, they will use our technology and use what's available, the material that's available, but they manipulate it so that, for instance, so that they appear next to me or appear with the face. So, and the spirit today, they just love our technology, and I use a camera. I don't use a cell phone. Cell phones have too many filters on them. So I just use a cheap digital camera, and my flash is always on. But spirit loves to manipulate our computers, our phones, our televisions, because of, electricity is a higher vibration, so they can match up with it. So they're having a ball using our stuff to show up.
Yeah. And that was one of the things that proved this to me, my little skeptical brain, because I saw you take the camera out of a plastic bag. I mean, it was sealed up, so there was no way you could manipulate it. You took this camera out and took pictures of all the people in the room, and amazing orbs showed up. In fact, several people had orbs show up on various parts of their body. And when you ask them, is there something going on in that part of their body? And they all said, oh yeah, I'm having problems with that, or whatever. So it even showed that level of awareness. That was pretty amazing.
Yeah, I remember that presentation. I think there were 20 some people there.
Yeah.
And it's a big presentation for me to do 20. Usually I do, 12 to 15. But every single person, and this is the magic of spirit, every single person in that room got an orb. I'll go to somebody's house, or they'll come here, I'll do presentations, and spirit never lets me down. I've never not gotten an orb for people.
Wow.
And you mentioned, sometimes it'll appear on a knee or a hip, the orb. And if I don't see a face, I'll ask the person, are you having a hard time with your hip or your knee?
Right.
Yes, I just had a knee replacement, or my hips, I'm going in for surgery or whatever. And so spirit knows that, and they're sending energy. So where the orb shows up is also important in the photograph.
Yes. So tell us a little bit about how this all started for you. I know your son passed, and all of these things started to tell us that story. I think it's a fascinating story.
Okay, thank you. In 2010, my son was in North Carolina visiting his cousins he hadn't seen. He had been really involved in law school and getting his job and passing the bar and all that. So he had a little break finally. So he promised his cousins he would go back and visit. And he was really sick when he left. he had a very, very bad cold. And I said, "Are you sure you want to go?" And he goes, "Yeah, I promised the girls, Mom. I don't want to let them down." So every day I'd go, "Okay, he's going to be home. He's going to be home. One more day, one more day." Well, uh, one night, 3 days into it, I woke up at 12:30 and a cold chill just ran down my body. And I went, "Okay, stop it. Everything's fine. Nothing's going on. It's 3:30 there. He's sound asleep." So I finally got myself back to sleep, and 6 o'clock, I hear the phone ringing. And I knew when I got up to answer that phone that my life was going to be changed. How did I know? I don't know, but I knew. And so sure enough, I got up and I answered the phone. And that's when my sister-in-law told me he had passed during the night.
Wow.
And then after that was a bit of a blur. I had to collect myself. But I've always believed in life after life, Royce. I've always believed in spirit communication. So one of the first things, and I had never been to a medium. I used to watch John Edward and, James Von Prague on TV, and I loved their shows, but I had never had a reading. So my husband was out of town, so I thought, well, I'm going to go get a reading. While the cat's away, the mouse will play, right? so I went and got a reading, and it was incredible. And Robbie said to me, or through the medium, she said, "Do you know what orbs are?" And I go, "No, I don't. What's an orb?" She said, "It's those things that show up on the photographs." And I said, "Okay, yeah." And she said, "Well, Robbie's telling me that's going to be your work."
Oh, wow.
And I went, "Excuse me?" And she said, "Yes, it's going to help heal people. You will heal people on this side. He will help heal souls on that side. You two are going to work together. That is one of your purposes, life purpose." And I went, wow. But as a mom, we always want the best for our kids, right? So if Robbie on the other side is communicating to me, "Mom, we have to do this. This is important." Okay, so blind, I got a little camera. I said, "What do I do?" And I just started taking pictures. And pretty soon I'd see these little gray dots show up in the picture. And I was ecstatic. But I still didn't understand, Royce, how these were going to help heal people. Excuse me. So I just kept taking them. Every night I take pictures. Well, then all of a sudden the orbs started to change. And this was, maybe a year or so. And they began to get bigger. They began to come in all kinds of colors. They began to show up in unusual places in the pictures. So we stayed with that for a while. On my website, I also show all the different types of orbs that I've captured. If you're going to capture dust, it's going to show up the same way over and over and over again. Well, my orbs don't do that. They change. So I have orbs that I call the crown jewels. I have orbs that I call the spotlight orbs. I have orbs with concentric circles. But then one of the most fascinating things that happened is they started to get faces. And if I can indulge just for a minute, when Robbie was a little boy, there was a book out, and you would look at the book. It was called The Magic Eye. And it was like, if you looked at it, it was just all these patterns on the page. But if you let your eyes relax, the 3D image would pop out.
Wow.
Do you remember those kind of things?
Do.
And when Robbie was little, he was probably, I don't know, 5 or 6 years old. And I got him one of those books, and he's looking at it, and he would see it right away. And I'd look and I go, "I don't see it, Robbie. I don't see it." And he said, "Mom, sit down. You have to see this." I mean, he was so forceful. And I went, "Why do I have to?" He says, "You have to know how to do this."
Wow.
And I went, whoa. So when the orbs first started with faces, I relaxed my eyes and I could see them, but no one else could.
Wow.
So it was like, okay, did Robbie's little soul know that, this is what we were going to do? It was an incredible moment for me. And I closed my eyes and I can hear him and remember that day. But anyway, so I worked with that for a while. And when I would take pictures of people, after a while, I started taking client pictures, and I'd show them the orb, that they couldn't see the face, but I would perfectly describe their loved one. And their loved one would appear, let's say they would draw my attention. I'd say, okay, I see a man, but he's wearing a police cap. They would draw me to a certain characteristic that would identify them. Or I see someone with a goatee, or I see someone with dark glasses, or I see a woman with pearls. So the orbs would always emphasize a characteristic where their loved ones would recognize them.
Wow.
So it was fascinating. But then that even started to change. And then now when I show pictures, 99% of the people can see their loved ones themselves, which is fascinating to me.
As we're talking, let me show us another picture, just one that might show a face, so we can kind of get an idea of what we're talking about here.
Okay. Well, this is an interesting story. I am now a self-described medium junkie, so I get a lot of readings, but I find it fascinating. But that's how Robbie communicates. And I was getting a reading by Rebecca Rosen, and she's been on my show. She's an incredible medium. And she says, I have a spirit here, and he's one of your guides, and he keeps telling me his name's Charlie. His name's Charlie. Do you know Charlie? And I said, I don't know Charlie. And that night, I go in my backyard and I take a picture, and this orb appeared. Now, you're going to have to use a little bit of your spirit vision. Charlie is there almost exactly, Charlie Chaplin, almost exactly as the black and white picture of he and his dog. The dog's down in the lower right, and Charlie's there. Maybe you can see his little black mustache, and his bowler hat is at the very top of the orb.
I see it.
And this was right after she told me, you have a guide named Charlie. Never in my wildest dreams and she didn't know. I sent her this picture and she was blown away.
Wow.
I learned later why, in fact, I had a guide, and our guides come and go. I don't know that Charlie Chaplin is still with me. I think he was there to serve a certain purpose and connect me with some people. But that one was so incredible, because here's not a loved one. I actually captured a guide, and he came in. If Charlie Chaplin would have come in an orb without his makeup, I wouldn't have known who he was. But here he showed up with his dog, the bowler hat, and the mustache. I mean, that image is, recognizable by everybody, right?
Yeah.
So, that's another thing. They will appear so that we can recognize them. Does he look like that now? No, we all become light bodies.
Yeah.
But I needed to know who it was, so that's how he appeared.
So let's see another one that shows a face. And I love when you said use your spirit vision, because I had to really focus in, and there it was. Oh, yeah. This is amazing.
So, people say, do animals, do our pets go to heaven? Yes, they have souls. And this was my dog, Buck. And in fact, this dog, Robbie and I, my son and I, rescued from the pound. And Buck was, I think he was 11 or 12, and he had a stroke. And we had to release him. But for me, it was incredibly difficult, because it was like one of the last pieces of Robbie, if you know what I mean. It was kind of a connection that we had when he was here. And so anyway, so Buck passed. And so I went out that night and I said, Buck, I need to know that you made it to the other side. And I took the picture. And if you look at that orb, if you look in the center, kind of center right, you'll see his little black nose. And then you can see his mouth and his up ears. And there he was in the orb. Now, I have captured, of course, cats and dogs, horses, turtles, opossums, fish, birds. All in the orb. So, spirit is so remarkable. But this one brought me so much comfort. And, that's the other reason I do this, Royce, because remember I said, Robbie said, you're going to help heal people on this side. And, even for people that go to mediums, or you're dependent upon the medium, and they can tell you, oh, your loved one's standing right here. Well, we can't see that, So what do? I take a picture they can see it.
Yeah.
So I can give you your picture. You can take it home with you. It's concrete. It's proof that they're right there.
Yes. I was just going to say it really it helps us because it has that proof, and we so much need that in these physical bodies that we're in. It's like I need proof all the time, no matter how many spiritual experiences I have, no matter how many times I leave my body or have my mother come talk to me from the spirit realm. We still need that physical proof, and it's just so beautiful what you're doing. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, and I was going to say, with that picture, you can clearly see the dog in the orb, right?
Yes. Yes.
Dust doesn't do that.
Right.
Dust doesn't form into your family pet.
Right. Right.
But yeah, so to know that your loved one, the other thing is they haven't left you. When Robbie first transitioned, um, well-meaning people, would say, "I'm so sorry for your loss." And I'd say, "I appreciate your sentiment, but I didn't lose him
Yeah. Yeah.
right here."
Yeah.
A friend of mine, in fact, the lady that told me about the orb, Hollister Rand, and she's been on my show. She's an amazing medium and teacher, and she wrote this great book, and the title of the book is "I'm Not Dead, I'm Different."
I love that. That's
Yeah,
great.
but
That's great.
that's what happens, we shed these physical raincoats, and we become what we all are, which is light bodies.
Yes.
And so that's what I'm really capturing is the light essence of who we are.
Yeah. Well, let's take a little bit of a break. And I'm talking to Nancy Myers, and we are talking about the amazing work she does with light and spirit and orbs. And we'll be right back.
Om Times TV. Do you crave joy but feel stuck? Do you go through life feeling constantly triggered and frustrated? Fear is likely the culprit, and subconscious fear is likely sabotaging you. Perfect Life Awakening is a time-tested, spiritually based approach to inner transformation created by Royce Morales. For over 40 years, she has helped people get to the origins of subconscious fears and ultimately help them find their true purpose and a life full of joy. Sign up for Perfect Life Awakening today at roycemorales.com. You deserve to go from triggered to empowered, shifting your life with Perfect Life Awakening. Imagine becoming a super influencer. Reinvent yourself, invest in your brand, and then manifest your success with a robust spheric approach. Om Times Media and Broadcasting offers a unique and multifaceted way to become the spiritual and conscious influencer you deserve to be by putting your message across our powerful platform with its proven record of integrity and excellence. Through our produced shows, Om Times offers the opportunity to become a social media TV personality, a radio show host, an Om Times magazine columnist, and a syndicated podcaster, all in one shot. By live streaming your show on Om Times TV and broadcasting it across the extensive Om Times radio and TV networks, you become more than a host. You become an ambassador and a force for positive change. Om Times. Open yourself to the possibilities.
I want to eat apples and bananas. I need to eat apples and bananas. Why can't I eat apples and bananas?
Support the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks to help provide meals to those in need. Join us at feedingamerica.org.
Welcome back. I am talking with Nancy Myers, and we're looking at some of her amazing orb photography. Are you the only one that is doing this? You mentioned that you had never heard of orbs, and I never have either. I've seen images where spirits show up and they stand there or whatever, but never as an orb form. Do you know if others are doing this?
There's a lot of other people that call themselves orb photographers, and but spirit has given me a niche, with the faces and the animals. I don't know of too many, if any, other orb photographers where the faces appear almost like pencil drawings. So, but that's what spirit wanted me to do. So, it's just like I know hundreds of mediums, but each medium has their own special ability or their own niche.
Yeah.
So, I like I said, there's a lot of orb photographers, but the face part of it is maybe, I don't know that it's unique, but it's what I do, and I don't see it all the time.
Yeah. Well, let's take a look at another one. This one is really interesting. You'll love to tell a story about this one. This is great.
Yeah, this one, that's my dad. And if you look for the mustache, he's kind of off center to the left a little. You can see his mustache, his nose, and then his glasses. And I'm going to talk just a second here, Royce, because I think this goes into about the healing and especially grief. I do a lot of work with parents who have lost children. Obviously, that's who spirit brings to me. But so the orbs prove that our loved ones have not left us. The bond of love is eternal. So I grew up in the 60s. I was a bit of a rebel. And I didn't, when my dad was in the physical, I didn't have the best of relationship with him. We were always butting heads, right? And towards the end, we made up. But I got a reading again, and the medium said, your dad is with you, and he's watching. He's just kind of, he's not that he's in awe, but he's trying to understand what it is and how you do it. And he's around you a lot. He's not a guide. He's not a teacher. He's just an observer. And I said, oh, okay. So again, I go out and take a picture, and there's my dad in the orb. Now, my dad is a ham. My dad has appeared in the orb more times than anybody else.
Oh, how funny.
Just to prove. And sometimes he's with one of my dogs. Sometimes he's with his dad. He comes in different colors. But here's the thing, people say to me, and I tell people now, Royce, let me finish that train of thought here about my relationship with my dad. I'm closer now to my dad than I was when he was alive or in a physical body. He's still alive. He's just not in a physical body. And why do I say that? Because I hear from my dad. I have dreams of my dad. My dad will come into readings and talk about something that just happened to me in my life. So, people say, oh, my mom never got to meet her grandchild, or I never got to say those final words to my husband, or do it. They hear you. They're right there. And they are still very much a part of your life. So to me, that brings me great comfort.
Yes.
But so that's my dad. And he shows himself a little bit younger too and that's the other thing. The spirits, once we get to know them, and especially when I'm doing readings and stuff, they'll come in as their very best self, in their 20s and 30s. It's kind of hilarious.
Wow. Yeah. So I forgot to mention in the beginning, if you're watching a live stream of this, feel free to send over some questions. They will show up on our screen, and I'm sure Nancy would love to answer them. So any questions that you guys have, feel free to send them over. But that's just amazing. So you talk about the healing that happens. So for example, when you're looking at a picture of somebody and there's an orb there and you're working with them, you get more information to give them, or is it just here's your dad, or what happens in those readings?
And that's an interesting thing that happened too. I started getting the orbs, and I review the pictures, and I go, oh, okay, that's an orb, that's an orb, that's an orb, that's an orb. Well, Robbie came into one of my readings, and the medium said, your son said to take your time and look at the orbs, connect with the orbs. And I went, oh, I never thought about that. Now, I have to tell you, before my son passed, I was always, like I said, always fascinating in afterlife communication, but I didn't think I had any skills. I had never done it.
Yeah.
So I began to take classes and slow down. And that's then when the orbs started to give me messages or communicate. It started slow, but and then it built and built and built. Even the animals, the animals will come in and talk about their favorite toy, or
Aw.
their last moments, or the memorial garden that you just planted for them, or so they're very aware. So a lot of times the orbs will come in, or the people, they're always, when I do my work, Royce, I always say my prayer that this work is from the highest good and for the highest good. I want my messages from spirit to be hopeful, helpful, and healing. So spirit is very careful with the messages that I receive and who I work with. I have a very dear friend, and she works with a lot of people who were abused. That's not my cup of tea. I couldn't handle that, but that's her niche. So, my messages are, pretty lighthearted most of the time and loving. And I enjoy that. So, that was a process. It took a long time. I thought it was really cool and just enough to say, "Hey, there's your father. He's right next to
Right.
you."
Yeah.
But Robbie said, he's always pushing me along, my son. He's always saying, "No, mom, now it's time for the next step and the next step and the next step,"
Yeah.
And he told me once, "Mom, follow the popcorn." So I follow the popcorn, to the next ability and the next ability.
That's
But
so
when that started happening, um, for me, it was so incredible. Here all my life, I had believed in this, but I didn't believe in myself.
Mm,
And that's what I want to tell your audience. We all have abilities at some level.
yes.
Everybody. I am no one special. I cheat a little because my son in spirit works with me so close, and I have help. But we all have these abilities if we want to explore them and develop them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Just, I don't know if my audience knows this, but I used to do channeling. That's how I started out in
Ah,
this spiritual work that I do. And one of the reasons that, you can't ever really leave it behind, but I kind of moved past it a little bit. I'm still able to do it, and I still help people that need that kind of communication. But one of the things that I got more in touch with from working with spirits is how much they want to resolve stuff. You know, um, for example, my ex-husband comes to me all the time lately, and he
ah,
died. He passed 7 years ago, and all of a sudden he is just in my face all the time. And I keep asking him, why now? And why did it take you 7 years? And he says, well, it took me that long to kind of understand all of this and all the stuff that you taught me. And I just want to clean things up with you. So it's like an ongoing communication that we have. Now, does that ever happen with you? Do people say, hey, I'm here because I want to apologize, or I want to forgive you, or I want to understand what happened? Does that happen to you as well?
oh, absolutely. And, remember I said in the beginning, Robbie said, "You're going to heal souls on this side, and I'm going to help heal souls on that side. So I'll bring you the right people. I'll bring you the right spirits." And because, yeah, we get to the other side, and we go, "Oops, I really messed that one up."
Right.
So,
Yeah.
you do. And here's one of the things, after Robbie passed, he gave me these instructions, and for some reason, I shifted my focus. I didn't stay in grief for a long time. Yes, I was devastated for a while, but then I said, "Okay, why? What am I supposed to do with this?" And so I started moving down the path. And Robbie said, "Mom, because of how you handled my passing and didn't stay in grief, you didn't become my unintended victim." So he didn't have to spend
Wow.
time working on that. My dad has come through and apologized for some of the things that we've done. And sometimes the spirits will come in with a message, and the sitters, "I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it." Or, "Yeah, sure. Now he tells me." But, but still, if you sit with it, and finally accept it, it's a healing.
Yeah. It
know,
is.
it really is a healing. And that's really what it's all about. We need to forgive
Yes.
our each other, help heal each other and love one another.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's see another one. Let's see
Okay.
next orb here.
This is my buddy Albert.
Wow.
If you look at that white tuck shirt in the orb, you can see it. And then you look up and you can see his hair, and it looks just like that picture. Exactly. But I also, for some reason, take pictures. I take pictures out in my backyard every night, as long as it's not windy or raining or snowing or anything. And so I've built up a rapport with the orbs. And it's really interesting. If I don't have a client and I'll just take pictures, these famous people will come in. And here's Albert Einstein. And why would Albert Einstein show up in an orb in my backyard one night? Um, I was actually writing one of my books, and I was looking up quotes, and I was reading about, because Albert Einstein, a lot of people don't know this, but he was very spiritual. Albert Einstein would be the first to tell you that he would sit and meditate, and this stuff would come in. He was downloaded with a lot of it,
Wow.
visions and dreams. And so he understood that. He understood the greater connection to the web of consciousness was very important. So, if you're thinking about someone or talking about someone, Robbie told me, Mom, it's kind of like we have a guitar string from our heart, my heart, to your heart. And when you think about me, you pluck that guitar string, and I feel that vibration. I go, oh, someone's thinking about me,
Wow.
So then they draw close. And so I've gotten Albert Einstein, Plato, Socrates, Nikola Tesla, and we're going to go, I know we have one more I'm going to talk about, which was a phenomenal picture. And who's some of the other ones? One night I was watching a documentary about Abraham Lincoln's years, and they were talking about how integral Frederick Douglass was, in this. And I go, wow, I didn't know any of that. And that night I went in the backyard and took a picture, and there's Frederick Douglass in the orb.
Oh my gosh.
So when I say we have the connection, we are always connected, and we don't lose that. But I know the next orb goes right into what I'm talking about
Yeah,
here.
let's see it. Let's see it.
So I was again in my backyard, and I took a picture, and sometimes I don't look at the orbs until the next morning. So I took this picture, and I started looking at the pictures and at breakfast. Excuse me. And I looked at the orb, and I said to my husband, I think I got John Lennon. And he goes, what? And I said, yeah, I think I got John Lennon. And he goes, okay, why? So, orbs, like I started to say earlier, there's not only colors mean things, a green can mean healing, pink could be love, orange means, hey, it's time to take some action here. Red means you need to get grounded. Blue can be our teachers. White can be the angelic realm. I mean, and those aren't only, okay? These are just some examples. But it's also important where the orb shows up and when. So I could clearly see John Lennon in this orb. So I looked up, okay, what important dates surround John Lennon? I think it was December 6th
Yes.
when I took this picture.
I know it well.
Okay. And I said, oh my God. And then my pictures are time-stamped on the back of my camera. This was the day he was killed.
Yep.
And almost to the minute.
Yes.
And because I just got hit with goosebumps. Now, John Lennon, I've captured three. Yeah, I've captured like 3 times, but this was the first. And the whole world was acknowledging the anniversary. I think it was a special anniversary. So everything was John Lennon, John Lennon, John Lennon. So he felt that tug. So he's going to appear, I guess, when and how he can for us to say thank you. Thank you for thinking of me. So I was quite honored when he showed up,
Wow.
but also flabbergasted.
Wow. Oh, I've got full body goosebumps on that one. I'm
Yeah,
a
me
major
too.
John Lennon fan. And every year on that date, which is my son's birthday as well,
Ah,
I I post stuff on Facebook, and I think about what the world would be like if he was still in a physical body, and what would he be doing right now? And it's one person I can say in my life that I have not completely let go of, in terms of he's not here anymore. So
but
it's
he is.
I
He
know
is.
he
You know,
really
and
is.
and I agree with you. I think John Lennon was one of the avatars of the Ascended Masters that, incorporated, I mean, incarnated to help us along.
Yeah.
But, after when you get on a spiritual path, and this is a great example, when I start listening, for instance, to John Lennon's Imagine,
Oh,
you hear it differently.
yes.
And he was so, so far ahead of his time,
Still is.
and it still is.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
but that's that was one of his purposes, was to
Yeah.
give us a kick in the butt, right?
Yes. And we still need another kick in the butt, John.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. But yeah, that one, I love that one.
So, speaking in terms of that sort of thing, and I know you're doing your show and you're helping people, is there some bigger way or something bigger that you need to do with all of this? Because it seems so important.
You know, I get up every day, Royce, and I have totally, I think, surrendered to spirit. And I go, okay, spirit, what are we doing today?
Yeah.
So one of the things, and this is what my second book is about, Robbie wanted me to travel the world. And I never had been outside of the United States. And so my first trip was to Scotland, and my husband went with me. But Robbie wanted me to visit all these ancient sites, all these ancient sacred sites, and take pictures. And some of the pictures that I've captured are that energy, those people. For instance, I'm fascinated with the Knights Templar.
Mm.
And so I've been to many, many places, Portugal and Scotland and Ireland, and where they've been, and Malta. And I take pictures, and there's an energy, or even a Knights Templar I can see in the orb, in his white tunic. So that part of it, and I think the reason is to let people know, yeah, you can see these sites on TV and it's fascinating. But when you go, there's a reason why these sites were built where they were built.
Yeah.
And it still carries the energy, and it can change you for the better. I'm always changed when I come back from one of my trips. So that's one of the things that I do with it. But, I just, when I think, okay, I'm done, I've taken all the orbs, they're all the kinds have shown up, they change again. So where is this going? I don't know. Robbie told me to help heal people. If I help heal one person, then my mission's accomplished. I'm not doing this certainly to be famous or to make money, but it's to help heal, help people get started on their own spiritual path, even if it's their first step.
Yeah.
Go look, go research, go find, go explore, go develop. Being on a spiritual path, as you know, Royce, it takes work, but it's an individual journey. You can't depend on somebody else.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's see another one. Let's see what's there.
Oh, so
Wow.
yeah, now it's hard to tell, but down at the very bottom is our jacuzzi, our spa. And that spa is probably 6 feet across. So if you look at the circumference of that spa, and then you look at that orb, you
Oh,
kind
wow.
of get an idea of the size. So orbs come in all different sizes, all different colors. Sometimes they're teeny tiny, sometimes they're huge like this. Now I'm going to tell you that I asked Robbie once. Now remember, these are not flat discs. they look flat in the photograph, right? They're
Yeah.
globes. They're literally spheres. And I asked Robbie one time, I said, Robbie, why are orbs round? What's the importance of that? And he said, that shape, that orb shape, is the easiest shape to travel between dimensions.
Oh, wow.
And I went, oh,
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah. So just remember that. And sometimes, um, some people say, oh, orbs are portals. I don't know. If you ever talk to someone and they go, or orbs are just angels, or orbs are just this, or orbs are just that. Maybe for them it is, but I found that the possibilities are endless of what orbs are. Because here's the thing, everything, and this is part of why Albert Einstein showed up, everything is energy. You cannot destroy energy. Energy only changes forms.
Yeah.
So when we pass, we become pure energy. So everything ultimately is energy. Robbie tells me that he's in a light body, but on the other side, but can appear, in other words, he's told me, okay, when you get over here, Mom, when it's your time, you will recognize me as you did on Earth. But over there, normally, he's just a light body.
Yeah.
So, so that's what the orbs are showing us. Now, blue sometimes can be our teachers. Sometimes orbs show up and I don't know who they are, or they'll start having designs in the middle that can be a message. So, I have to sit with them. I try to sit with them and figure it out. 80% of the time I do. Sometimes they have to do it over and over again and hit me over the head before I finally get it.
Yeah.
But I like this one because it was so big. It almost looks like you could go inside of it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go off topic here just for a second. Please excuse me. But there are some people who say they see UFOs or extraterrestrials or beings from whatever,
Yes.
and they're always in the form of an orb, right?
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah. So, I believe that a lot of extraterrestrials are very, very advanced civilizations. So they have already transcended to their light bodies.
Yeah.
But I did have a medium tell me, and this is just starting to happen. She said, Nancy, pretty soon the images in the orbs are going to step out of the orbs and you will capture that.
Wow.
So I've captured a couple spirits like poking out of the orbs, but it hasn't come to a full body thing yet. So
Wow.
maybe that's where it's going.
Yeah. Well, let's see the next one. I know we're getting kind of close here on time.
Oh,
so
okay.
let's see
Sorry.
the next one. No, that's okay.
This one, I love this one. When Robbie appears, he's a teal color orb.
Wow.
And I was sitting in the kitchen in another room, and I was talking or doing something. And all of a sudden, I had this overwhelming feeling that Robbie was by me. So I said, I'm going to go sit in this room, Rob, my husband. I said, would you take my picture? And so he did. And sure enough, Robbie was right there yakking in my ear, on my shoulder. So,
Wow.
if you say I sense someone is near, and we've all felt that, right?
Yes.
And I take a picture, yes, you are feeling them for sure.
Yeah. And what is that smaller one on the wall, or is that just your wall?
No, it's I think Robbie travels in a gang. So
Oh,
he
God.
always has, and the orbs have told me, and Spirit has told me that sometimes baby orbs will show up, for lack of a better term, and it's souls coming in. They're coming in to like visit before they incarnate.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
That makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah, they're checking it out. Yep.
Yep. Yep.
And so, okay, let's go to the next one.
Is that the last? Oh,
Oh, wow.
this is my walk like an Egyptian. Um, I was in Egypt, which was fascinating, and so many things happened. But I stood there and I said, okay, if the energy of the gods and goddesses and are still here, please come close. And then that's the result of the picture. They weren't on my hand per se, but right over my head. And I love that because when you see like the images of Isis, or there's a couple other, they have those sun discs over their head,
Yeah.
and it was almost like, okay, we're right here helping you. You
Wow.
are tied in. And I love how that orb appeared on the giant statue behind me.
Oh, yeah.
It almost changes or creates another face,
Oh,
right?
yeah. I didn't even see that. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Wow.
I loved Egypt. I want to go back.
Wow. Okay, I think we have one more to show. Yes, there we go.
Okay. And this was early on. And I was in the beginning, I felt like I was at the mercy of the orbs. Okay, when are you going to show up? I'll just keep taking pictures and show up and show up and show up. And then all of a sudden I figured out I can invite them in. I can
Yeah.
ask them to come in. And so this is a picture of my husband took again. And I said, I'm going to call in, my guides, my teachers in spirit. I said, take a picture. And bam, there they were. So it just goes to prove again that spirit hears us. They're right here. They respond. And that was a pretty good size orb. It doesn't have a face in it. They were just letting me know, yeah, we hear you. Okay, we'll show up. A lot of times my clients, I'll say, hold your hand out or look up or look over this way. And when I take a picture, that's right where the orb will appear.
Wow. This is so fascinating.
Oh, thank you.
So,
It's fun. I got to tell you.
yeah. So what else is unfolding for you that you're aware of? Do you know of any other direction that you're supposed to go, or anything else you're supposed to do with this? Because again, I feel like this needs to be out there big in the world.
I'm trying, Royce. I'm trying. I've been doing this for 14 years. I have my podcast, which is the Spheres of Spirit here in Ohm. And I have my books. But I think, I still have some traveling that I want to do. I still have some of that experiences to document, yet. And, where this has led, I started out, oh, good, I'm going to be an orb photographer. How fun. Yeah. Then it became, okay, now you're going to communicate with the orbs, and now you're going to be a medium. And now I'm a Reiki master. Well, now I'm going to be a certified angel card reader. But the thing that surprised me most, Royce, and you understand this, is when I began to channel. And so now I channel my guide, my higher self, Leonini. But also what's happening now, and this is probably going to be another book, I'm starting to channel celebrities. And they'll come in and they'll give these amazing messages. And I never thought I would be doing that. So I don't know what spirit has in store for me, but there's so many different aspects, but they all fit together, right?
Yes.
They all complement each other.
Yeah.
So I just, maintain curiosity, maintain enthusiasm, and gratitude.
Yeah. Well, keep up the good work. How do people get in touch with you? Are there any final things you'd like to share?
Yeah, I have a Facebook page. It's called The Orb Connection, and it's public. You don't have to friend me. I post on there. I have a website. It's called theorbconnection.com. And all my past shows are on it. And then all the pictures that are in my books are on the website. So you can see those with the explanations and some excerpts from my book. Some of my other appearances and guest appearances. And then I do have some people say, well, do I have to be there in person to have a session with you? No, I have done it over the computer, and the orb will appear right next to the computer screen. It's crazy.
Wow.
But if you have questions, people will send me their pictures and say, what do you think? And so you can send that to theorbconnection@gmail.com or in Messenger. And I try to answer everybody.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. This is so enlightening, so amazing. And you so deserve to be doing what you're doing and getting this amazing information and healing out there in the world. And I'm just sending you all kinds of energy to expand out there. And just I found a quote somewhere on your, I guess it was on your website. It was from your son, and I just love this. It says, "The more you believe, the more you believe," and I just love that quote.
Yeah.
So with that, I thank you again. And if anybody's interested in reaching you, the Orb Connection is where to reach you.
Yep.
And if anybody's interested in doing my classes, I'm hopefully going to start a new one real soon. Reach out to me at my website is Perfect Life Awakening. You can email me at royce@roycemorales.com. And I look forward to hearing more from you, Nancy. Maybe we can get together again and do some more of this. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Royce. It was a pleasure.
You are very welcome.